Until now, Russian parapsychology has been hidden from the eyes of the West. We have had no access to those who seem to possess psychic powers. Powers of telekinesis. Powers of levitation. Powers that seem to defy the laws of nature. In Russia, new frontiers of psychic phenomena have also been explored. Secret research into means of telepathic mind control over individuals and even entire armies as weapons of psychic warfare. Join us now as we explore the extraordinary powers of the Russian psychics. An experiment in mind over matter by an acclaimed Russian psychic. Until recently, such demonstrations of psychic powers were virtually inaccessible to scientists in the West. For the greatest part of this century, an icy veil of secrecy has obscured our view and knowledge of the wondrous place called Russia. Subjects like parapsychology have been shrouded in rumor and mystery, but today, all that has changed. With glasnost, perestroika, and the fall of the Soviet Union, a vital new sense of freedom has overtaken Russia. There is new hope for the future and unprecedented access to once secret and hidden aspects of the past. The mood is brave and hopeful, and Russians can openly say things never possible before. Today, for the first time, Russian scientists, researchers, and psychics themselves are able and willing to share their work in the paranormal. Meet Alla Vinogradova, a psychic renowned for her powers. In Russia, psychics are called extrasensors, and Vinogradova discovered her extrasensory powers more than 25 years ago, when she found she could control the movements of a metal tube without touching it. Her ability is called telekinesis, and her demonstrations were witnessed and documented by numerous Russian scientists and psychic researchers. While many regarded her powers as astounding and unique, skeptics suggested her talents might simply be due to the effects of static electricity. Vinogradova believes that electrostatic forces merely augment her psychic powers.
The lightest object that I could move was an aluminum cigar tube that weighed 7 grams. As I developed my ability, I could move objects up to 200 grams. Physicists and other specialists said that it will be impossible to move an object this heavy with just pure electrostatic energy.
Vinogradova was given an ordinary cigarette to demonstrate her power. In trying to understand the nature of her ability, researchers applied a Russian invention believed to record human auras, a technique called Kirlian photography.
They were interesting experiments made by physicists using Kirlian photography. And they took pictures of my fingers before I began to work, and then again after I finished, and the photographs of the fingers were absolutely different.
Exactly what accounts for that difference, Vinogradova does not know. She says that to perform telekinesis, she must gather and concentrate what feels like a pulsating bioenergy in her body. While directing that energy onto an object, she senses physical changes.
When I am doing this, I feel my fingers are getting thicker and heavier, and then I am able to move objects.
Vinogradova believes her power derives from a focused psychic energy. It is a power she has always accepted as a special natural gift.
I believe some people are simply born with more psychic energy. Above all, I think most of the people who have these special kinds of energies are in Russia.
This is Russia's most famous psychic, a housewife and mother of three named Nina Kulagina. Her telekinetic powers seemed awesome and astounded all who saw them. Though only a few rare film clips still survive, Kulagina was by far the most studied and documented psychic subject in Russian history. She was seen by many as living proof that psychic powers were unquestionably real. Nina Kulagina discovered her powers at the age of 33. Home movies made by her husband at their Leningrad home documented Kulagina's earliest efforts at telekinetic movement. In this makeshift experiment, a glass tube covered by a flower vase was the focus of her powers. With a sudden, intensified effort, it moved. Later demonstrations included several objects at once. Kulagina's uncommon abilities quickly drew the attention of Soviet researchers. Over 40 top scientists, including 2 Nobel laureates, studied Kulagina, searching for an explanation of her seemingly supernatural powers. Time and again, Kulagina submitted herself to grueling demonstrations of telekinesis. Here, after 2 hours of trying, she made a compass needle move. When she exerted even greater effort, the compass itself was affected. Kulagina reported that just before an object moved, she felt a sharp pain in her spine. Then her vision blurred and she became dizzy. Medical tests showed that her blood pressure rose dangerously. Her heart action became arrhythmic and reached up to 240 beats per minute. Every physical measure revealed a profound stress reaction. Edward Naumov, a leading Russian parapsychologist, has studied Nina Kulagina more extensively than anyone.
I first met Kulagina in 1968. And after that, I observed her telekinesis thousands of times. Telekinesis was not her only gift. She had many psychic abilities. She was an outstanding phenomenon, absolutely unique. No other person in the world had powers like hers. And she was always willing to demonstrate her powers to scientists.
Among Kulagina's other powers was a mysterious ability to radiate burning heat from her hands. Experiments confirmed what was called her biothermal effect, Yet an explanation for these powers eluded the researchers. A visiting foreign reporter once tested Kulagina's burning powers firsthand. In this demonstration, broadcast over Soviet television, Kulagina generated heat so intense it produced a bright red burn mark on the correspondent's neck. Others would have similar experiences. Dr. Benson Herbert, the noted British parapsychologist, reported suffering an intolerable sensation of heat on his arm from the touch of Kulagina's hand. Clairvoyance, the ability to see objects or events beyond physical vision, was yet another psychic power Kulagina possessed. Of her many demonstrations, this is the only film record.
Star. The first one. No, what else? Okay, just a minute. Triangle and 2. 25 and 88.
Ой, 52
No,
и
52 and 88.
69,
69,
пусто
empty,
и 6.
and 6.
Kulagina exhibited such a broad range of extrasensory powers, including levitation, that she ultimately became the subject of controversy. The newspaper Pravda, as well as other publications, accused Nina Kulagina of charlatanism and fraud, claiming she produced her effects with magnets and invisible threads. In the District Court of Moscow in 1986, Kulagina sued for defamation. Psychics and parapsychologists from throughout Russia rallied to her support. Taking the lead on her behalf was the outspoken Edward Naumov, who became instrumental in convincing the court that Kulagina was authentic. The judge's ruling made history. Never before had a psychic been validated in court. A new surge of scientific interest soon engulfed Kulagina in another array of experiments designed to discover the physical basis of her amazing powers. Previous research had indicated unusually strong magnetic, acoustic, and electrical fields emanating from her head and hands. Yet for scientists, this remarkable woman would remain a baffling enigma. In the spring of 1990, Nina Kulagina died. She was the victim of a massive heart attack, which many believe was caused by the physical demands of using her psychic power.
The tragedy of her life is that she passed away too soon and never fully developed all of her capabilities. She could have done much, much more.
For Russian parapsychologists, the passing of Nina Kulagina marked the end of an unparalleled era in Russian psychic research. This film, made shortly before her death, is her final visual document. A determined but unsuccessful attempt to reveal her gifts once more. For many, it is also an answer to those who question her powers. If what she displayed were merely tricks, why did she not use them now? For more than 20 years, she was a psychic institution. And this is the image of Nina Kulagina which most will forever remember. Russians today are once again free to openly practice their religious beliefs. Beliefs suppressed but not extinguished by the atheist doctrine of communism. Deeply ingrained in Russia's 1,000-year-old religious tradition is the belief that certain icons are possessed of healing power. In Russia, a belief in psychic healing is just as deeply rooted. the healer is believed to transmit new energy into the body of the sick person. Alexei Krivorotov has long been revered as the most powerful psychic healer in modern Russian history. He was convinced that the powers of faith and mind were limitless, and that his ritual laying on of hands imbued his patients with a curative psychic force. His powers to heal were repeatedly tested and accepted by Soviet scientists. The transfer of psychic energy has always been of consuming interest to Russian parapsychologists. In this controlled experiment at the University of Leningrad, a psychic apparently lights a lamp by directing his power towards a device which registers psychic energy. For Dr. Gennady Sergeyev, the neurophysiologist who devised the experiment, the applied use of psychic energy is a plain and proven fact. Many Russian scientists agreed, and in the early 1970s began creating devices to harness psychic power. They are known as psychotronic generators, instruments designed to capture and accumulate psychic energy and then release it on command. It is believed that psychotronic generators form a union between mind and matter, transforming human psychic power into a practical and controllable resource. In theory, the power originates from somewhere inside the brain and is emitted most effectively directly through the eyes. Once accumulated and concentrated by a psychotronic generator, the power can be released and used for a multitude of purposes. The field of psychotronics remains vital to this day. Russian parapsychologists have developed more advanced and sophisticated devices. Psychotronic generators which in theory at least have powers to heal or harm.
A psychotronic generator can influence a whole crowd of people. It can affect a person's psyche, memory, or attention span. A psychotronic device can cause physical fatigue, disorientation, and even alter a person's behavior.
Edward Naumov and many others believe that the Soviet military and KGB conducted intensive secret research to harness psychotronic power as a weapon of mass mind control and psychic warfare. Major General Oleg Kalugin was in charge of foreign counterintelligence for the Soviet Union. He is the youngest general in the history of the KGB and a former minister of the Soviet Parliament.
Obviously, the Soviet security services could not stay indifferent to those efforts to produce a new, deadly or whatever mysterious weapon. So they tried to explore the mysteries of human power of other people and simulate a generator of the same nature, which produced a similar effect. But as far as I know, the military did produce something of that nature, and according to my knowledge, it was very successful.
Baguio City, the Philippines, 1978. It was the site of the World Chess Championship and a crucial Soviet experiment in psychic mind control. Determined to retain the world title, the Soviet Union supported its champion with a huge entourage of specialized aides. Leading them was Dr. Vladimir Zhukov, a KGB parapsychologist reportedly adept at telepathic hypnosis. Anatoly Karpov was the defending world champion, 27 years old and the darling of Soviet chess. The challenger, Viktor Korchnoi, the 47-year-old Russian grandmaster who 2 years earlier had defected to the West. The match vibrated with the atmosphere of Cold War confrontation. From the very outset, Korchnoi strongly protested the disturbing presence of Dr. Zhukov in the playing hall. Korchnoi believed that Zhukov was dulling his playing ability through negative mental telepathy.
Dr. Zhukov forced me to make blunders and influenced me to play not so strong because I would not deserve to be world champion, being, say, a traitor of the Soviet state. I believe that in his mind he always used to say, well, you are a traitor of the Soviet people. You should stop fight against Karpov. You should stop. You must not fight against him. You must lose. Something like that.
Korchnoi's persistent requests that Zukar be expelled from the audience met with no success. And after the longest match in chess history, Korchnoi conceded defeat. It was Zukar and the powers of mind control that he angrily blamed for his narrow loss.
I came to Philippines to play, well, 1 against 1. I was not quite right. The whole Red Army against me. Well, and in the charge of the army, not Baturinski, Zukar.
For Anatoly Karpov and the Soviet Union, it was a prestigious international victory. For Viktor Korchnoi, however, the triumph seemed to belong much more to parapsychology.
I was told that there was an institute of parapsychology in Moscow, and in the corridor there was a big slogan, "Let us help Karpov to retain the title of world champion."
There was a team of KGB specialists in the Philippines. They especially were assigned to that chess championship, just to influence Mr. Korchnoi. And to destroy his ability to win, of course. That was the major goal.
The Soviet military and KGB had goals much larger than chess. In the Cold War competition to tip the balance of power, elements in the Soviet defense establishment looked to parapsychology as a source of exotic weapons for which Western powers were unprepared. A classified US intelligence report stated, "Many scientists, US and Soviet, feel that parapsychology can be harnessed to create conditions where one can alter or manipulate the minds of others." Dr. Nikolai Koklov, a former KGB agent who defected to the West, was hired by the CIA in 1976 to investigate and report on secret parapsychological research in the Soviet Union. He uncovered more than 20 clandestine laboratories, staffed by hundreds of top scientists and technicians. Research included well-funded experiments in negative telepathy and mind control, as well as investigations into the biophysics of mind-to-mind communication, which involved the electrocution of newborn rabbits separated from their mothers. At heavily guarded military facilities, psychotronic generators were developed and tested. The hearts of lab animals were stopped telepathically, and prison inmates were used in attempts to paralyze sections of their spinal cords through concentrated psychic power. The sinister specter of psychic power as a destructive and harmful weapon is still present in Russia today. This government laboratory in Moscow manufactures psychotronic generators. It is the type of equipment which many believe could pose a present-day threat to the new democratic Russia.
Министерство обороны СССР, КГБ,
the Ministry of Defense, the KGB, and other organizations did build psychotronic generators. I know that over 500 million rubles were spent on developing psychotronic equipment. Which brings up the question, where are all these devices? During the attempted coup of 1991, these psychotronic generators may well have been used by the military.
Russia's president, Boris Yeltsin, was reportedly the target of psychotronic attack.
I had a very funny request from a guy who is in charge of a military lab in the Ukraine, and he told me, this guy, that there would be an attempt on Yeltsin's life using a special generator which could damage Mr. Yeltsin's health and probably kill him. And he said, we developed some kind of equipment which can hold someone's heart at a distance by command. For the first time in my life, I took it seriously.
President Yeltsin did indeed suffer a heart attack shortly after the coup, could it have been caused by a psychotronic generator? A weapon for which his fragile government had no defense. A weapon which parapsychologists believe can be used to affect an entire population. There are those who now perceive a grave and terrible threat from psychic warfare. The notion may stretch the imagination, but US intelligence has estimated that the Kremlin spent $30 million a year on psychic warfare research. The most reported, studied, and documented of all psychic phenomena is telepathy, the ability to read minds and transmit thoughts. The most accomplished and famous Russian telepathist is Karl Nikolaev, a man whose powers have been tested by scores of Russian scientists for more than 30 years. At the historic Moscow home of the writer Maxim Gorky, Nikolaev recently demonstrated his telepathic abilities, skills which Russian psychics called biocommunication. Nikolaev will work with a person called an inductor, a psychic adept at transferring thoughts into another mind. He is Dr. Stanislav Panov, and neither he nor Nikolaev has any knowledge whatsoever of the instruction enclosed in the envelope now placed before him. The instruction reads, "Take the metal statue of Lenin and put him on the table." Now Panov will send, and Nikolaev will attempt to receive that instruction telepathically. From a position behind Nikolaev, Panov will mentally transmit the message over and over again. As he attempts to receive the message, Nikolaev thinks aloud and also encourages Panov to transmit more strongly.
Думай. Еще вперед. Вперед. Думай. Так, сюда. Ленин. Так, Ленин. Идем. Так, куда?
Where to, he asks himself.
На стол.
To the table.
На стол.
Yes, to the table.
На стол.
Remarkably, Nikolaev has succeeded.
Возьми металлическую фигуру Ленина и поставь ее на стол. Значит, наверное, всем знакомо.
Everyone is familiar with the feeling of someone staring at their back. Everyone knows that feeling, but you don't pay much attention to it. What it really is a kind of telepathic link-up or tuning in between two people. If you have a good inductor, you can physically feel the stare.
Now, another attempt.
I'm guided by this telepathic stare to my back, and I feel it telling me where to go. Sometimes the stare says no, and it holds me. And if it says yes, then I move in that direction.
Цветы. Теперь цветы. Думай.
I can't explain why, I just choose an object because I feel I want it. I don't want this, I don't want that, but this I want. For example, the flowers. The stare says no. I have a bad feeling. It's not the flowers. I put them back.
Что такое?
Now Nikolaev suddenly senses the correct object.
Yes, it's this.
The instruction called for him to bring the potted plant next to the flowers to the table.
Also to the table? Yes, to the table.
Once again, Nikolaev succeeds. Out of 6 separate tests conducted this day, Nikolaev gets 5 correct. At the Russian Ministry of Defense complex in Moscow, Nikolaev and Panov attempt an even more challenging test of their telepathic powers. One of 6 objects, none of which either has ever seen, will be chosen for Panov as the subject for telepathic transmission. Karl Nikolaev is 10 floors below, ready to describe his telepathic impressions.
So let's begin.
A stenographer will record Nikolaev's descriptions.
It could be something metal, and if it's metal, it's painted and it has cold surface. It could be painted metal or plastic. It's colored and bright. It looks like maybe small toy.
This is the object.
The surface is smooth, but has some kind of small bumps. Or maybe it's grooves or letters on it, because the fingers can feel it. It looks like toy. It's painted metal or plastic. That's it.
Stop. The experiment concludes, but will Karl Nikolaev be able to identify the object he has just described by telepathy? He identifies the car immediately, even though he has never physically seen it before. The most dramatic telepathic experiment in the history of Russian parapsychology took place here at the University of Leningrad in 1967. The participating psychics were Karl Nikolaev and the late biophysicist Yuri Kamensky. From a laboratory at the Polytechnical Museum in Moscow, Kamensky was instructed to telepathically send a series of words and images to Nikolaev. 400 miles away, at the University of Leningrad, Nikolaev's brainwaves and heart rate were carefully monitored. After telepathic contact had been established, Kamensky was given a final instruction to use his mental powers to strangle Nikolaev.
Suddenly, I was overcome with the feeling of not being able to breathe. I couldn't get enough air. This lasted about 45 seconds. I kept trying to get air. I had a terrible feeling there wasn't enough air to breathe.
Dr. Gennady Sergeyev supervised the entire experiment.
His head became red, and his eyes started to cloud over. He began to sweat. Beads of perspiration started running off his head. His entire body trembled. He seemed to be losing control. He became very faint, and it looked like he just received some enormous shock. Then he began to lose consciousness.
The experiment was immediately halted. But throughout, Nikolaev's vital functions were monitored by Dr. Lucy Pavlova.
It was really an extraordinary experiment. And I can say, as a physiologist who was there, that all the experimental data from electroencephalogram was correct. And the brain of Karl Nikolaev received 100% of what Kamensky sent. Therefore, this experiment proved that there is telepathy.
Today, in her laboratory at the University of Leningrad, Dr. Pavlova is searching for evidence of the physical and biological nature of telepathy.
We have demonstrated that telepathy exists, even though our subjects don't show it every time we test them. Most probably, every person is capable of telepathy, but nature is hiding it from us. So now the question becomes, how can we find what nature has hidden?
Dr. Pavlova is one of many Russian scientists determined to succeed in that quest. In the early 1960s, a new psychic phenomenon sparked the interest of the Russian public and made headlines throughout the Soviet Union. It was hailed by many scientists as the discovery of a genuine sixth sense. A single woman's ability to see and read through her skin was the cause of this sudden excitement. Her name was Rosa Kuleshova, and she became a psychic sensation. Scientists described her apparent ability as a physiological mechanism in which the senses of touch and vision are fused. While blindfolded, Kuleshova could read, see colors, and recognize photographs. Her incredible powers of skin sight extended even to her feet. Almost overnight, the so-called Kuleshova phenomenon triggered a research effort of tremendous dimensions, involving scientists and test subjects throughout Russia. At scientific institutes in at least 6 Russian cities, tests with thousands of volunteers revealed that there were many who could sense colors, words, or images directly through their skin. In this experiment, the subject attempts to determine which of several metal envelopes contains the color red.
Красный.
The word krasny means red, and the subject's response will prove to be correct. Yet, despite years of intensive study, the true nature of this remarkable phenomenon has remained a riddle of science. Another mysterious psychic phenomenon is fascinating Russians today. It is being investigated here at the Scientific Research Institute of Traditional Methods of Treatment of the Russian Ministry of Health. It is called biogravity or bioattraction, which defines the apparent ability of some people to become human magnets. Dr. Alexander Dubrov, a noted Russian biophysicist and parapsychologist, is one of the world's acknowledged experts in the field.
Biogravity, it is new type of psychic field. My hypothesis create on this phenomena. Different things attract to body. Wooden, plastic, glass. This case to say about gravity. Only gravity in our world attract different things. I think biogravity has very interesting capability. I made different experiments. There is unusual electric activity in the brain. When psychic attract the things, there is synchronously working brain hemisphere.
The result seems to be an uncanny ability to make almost anything stick. Dubrov believes that all people possess at least latent biogravitational energy, an energy that can manifest itself in the most surprising ways.
One day, while I was putting on my makeup, I suddenly noticed that the brush was sticking to my hand. I went to the next room to show my husband. "Look, honey," I said, "my brush is stuck to my hand and it won't fall off." He shrugged and said, "It's just electrostatically just like what happens to plastics." I went back to the other room and began experimenting with other objects. I tried one, then another, and I could see that I could attract any object.
I think it is a gift from nature, biogravitation, as Professor Dubrov calls it. And another scientist says that it's a type of magnetic electricity. I don't know what it is.
It is needed to study these phenomena with physics and medical doctors and biophysics and other psychophysics. I think these phenomena say to scientists about new type of field, physical field, as I named biogravity.
Yuri Tkachenko's biogravity power has astounded many researchers. The steel plate weighs over 40 pounds. Now he attempts a total weight of nearly 70 pounds. Tkachenko has been called Russia's most powerful human magnet, but this feat might well be a biogravity world record. Of all psychic phenomena, perhaps the most mind-boggling and difficult to accept is the power of levitation. The extraordinary powers of Boris Yermolayev have been studied and confirmed by 5 members of the Soviet Academy of Sciences. Yermolayev lives in Moscow and has displayed his rare ability over a period of 20 years. His talents, however, extend beyond psychic phenomena. He is also an accomplished film director, one who loves to recount his first levitation experience.
Anyone can do this, anyone who is physically advanced and a concentrated person. So I did it. And suddenly this handkerchief remained in the air. I was so much impressed that it fell down.
Over a period of several evenings, Yermolayev would attempt to demonstrate his powers of levitation. The first object Yermolayev chooses is a lighted cigarette.
Вот я так и знал, кстати.
Amazingly, the cigarette appears to float in midair. After a brief rest, Yermolayev borrows a pair of eyeglasses. The glasses, too, seem to levitate under his spell. Yermolayev prefers to demonstrate his abilities only to small groups of friends and acquaintances in his Moscow apartment. His energy spent, he would try again the following evening.
Ну, я начну с самого для меня трудного. Это с горящей сигареты. Почему-то горящая сигарета очень мне тяжело.
Yermolayev says he must begin with something very difficult, such as a cigarette, to determine if his powers can be summoned. Satisfied with his ability, he attempts the glasses again. Yermolayev says it is difficult for him today. Then he attempts another object, a flashlight. From this vantage point, a member of the production team notices what appears to be a fine thread suspended between Yermolayev's legs. She breaks it.
Провод. Спокойно, спокойно, давай дальше. Еще. Маша, еще.
Yermolayev denies the use of a thread and insists on continuing his demonstration. He will try for more than an hour, but no other objects can be made to defy gravity.
Сейчас, секунду. Сейчас, секунду. Еще что-нибудь. Сейчас подождем немножко.
Finally, Yermolayev says he is physically exhausted. Careful review of the videotape shows clear evidence of a thread suspended between his legs. The lighting conditions and camera angle used to document his demonstrations were strictly imposed by Yermolayev. These revealing shots were inadvertently captured by a home video camera used by a member of the production crew. Was it simply a magician's trick that allowed Yermolayev to levitate objects in the air? Or perhaps had Yermolayev desperately resorted to trickery to demonstrate a power he once possessed but lost? In Russia and throughout the world, there are many who firmly believe in extrasensory powers, powers that transcend mundane reality and defy the known laws of nature. Today, there is still no accepted theory of paranormal powers, and despite captivating demonstrations and rigorous research, the phenomena remain nearly as elusive as when the scientific search for their existence began more than a century ago. Yet, in Russia, as in America, the belief in psychic phenomena remains strong, and most people believe that they themselves have had an authentic psychic experience.